My name is Benjamin Gottlieb. I'm a local real estate attorney, co-founder of the law firm MacQueen Gottlieb. Our law firm predominantly does real estate litigation and transactional law. I've taken a heightened interest to all of these real estate related executive orders since they first came out back several months ago, earlier in the year. And today I look forward to briefly discussing the new executive order that came down yesterday on the continued postponement of residential evictions.
Great, thank you. And I'm Carrick Sears. I am a multifamily broker with SVN Desert Commercial Advisors right here in Phoenix. And happy to be on this call. And we're doing this so all of our clients can be up to date with what's going on here in Arizona with the current situation and the eviction moratorium that we just have had extended here. And I'm happy to be joined with an excellent property manager, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Anthony to talk about his company.
Hi, I'm Anthony DeAugustine. I'm the president of Avant. We're a property management services that predominantly does multifamily. And we're on today to kind of give the perspective of what we're seeing in some of our partner communities. And I'm joined here with Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob. I work with Avant. I am a licensed agent and a property supervisor. So I'm more on the front lines with my site managers regarding the legal issues that we'll be talking about today. So thank you for having us. We really appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, Ben, take it away.
Absolutely. So let's just start with the original executive order that Governor Ducey signed on March 24th of this year. That executive order was the initial order that postponed residential evictions. And just a brief recap for those who may not be fully aware, the original executive order basically said if somebody has a COVID type issue requiring that person to be quarantined, or a financial issue or hardship due to COVID-19, a landlord would be prevented up until July 22nd from enforcing what's called a writ of restitution. And that is where you call upon the local law enforcement officer to actually go out and remove a tenant from the property that he or she is residing in. And so that was the executive order that's been in place up until now, and that was set to expire in 5 days. And yesterday, Governor Ducey signed a new executive order, which essentially continued the existing executive order all the way up until October 31st of this year. But there's a key component of the new executive order that as of August 21st is going to operate, in my view, much narrower in terms of how many tenants may qualify. And what happens after August 21st in the new executive order is tenants have to prove to the landlord that they have a financial hardship and that they have a pending application for rental assistance with the rental assistance fund program. And so no longer can a tenant just simply state that they have a quarantine issue and therefore cannot be evicted per the new executive order after August 21st. The tenant actually has to prove they have a financial hardship and have applied for rental assistance. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Also, I think you're going to have some or maybe a lot of frustrated landlords who may still be pursuing actions in the coming days in the interest of justice or for other possible bases that fall outside of the executive order. And so while on its face, the executive order does appear to be a big blow to landlords, there is some solace that can be taken from the fact that the executive order becomes narrower as of August 21st. Also, Governor Ducey announced the $5 million foreclosure prevention program designed to assist landlords who rely on rental payments to make their mortgage payments. And so details on that remain to be disclosed, should be disclosed shortly, but hopefully landlords can take solace in that as well. So that's kind of a brief summary of what has taken place thus far and what happened yesterday. I'll turn it over to you, Carrick.
Yeah, thanks for filling us in. And certainly we have some landlords who are looking forward to July 23rd to move forward with an eviction, a physical eviction, because they've already obtained their eviction and the judgment against the tenant, and they were planning on calling the constable and doing that eviction. And now, to much dismay, there's going to be this 90-day delay. Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about what your kind of backlog of evictions is looking like right now?
Yeah, just this month we're filing, we manage 1,435 units. We specialize in scattered site type situations, small properties ranging under 50 doors. So just this month, and not counting the properties with on-sites, I'd say probably out of that portfolio, about 800 units. We have about 19 evictions going just for July. The bigger issue is what we carried into the month. We had a lot of people that are just sitting and sitting in units 2-3 months at a time and have not paid.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you have had some tenants that haven't paid rent since April that are truly, they are unemployed and they're getting unemployment assistance and they're just choosing not to pay rent and kind of pocketing this money until they absolutely have to move?
Yeah, we do. We have a handful that have been sitting and know what the laws are. That's why I was really pleased when he did the extension to October 31st to see that how he narrowed it, because I think it's going to cause us to be able to filter through some of those people that are just sitting. Some of them are sitting on not only because of the state stay, but there's also a government stay in place for Section 8 tenants or any government-backed tenant base, whether it be loans or or voucher program. So there's actually 2 stays we're kind of working off of. But yeah, so when that one, the government one gets lifted, I believe on July 25th. So when that one happens, and then when they narrow in on the extension for the state stay, it's going to give us what we need to do to still do our jobs and get the people that aren't truly affected by this out of that housing to provide it to people who need it.
So you don't think the restriction is too open-ended? How can you make it work for a landlord to get somebody out who is choosing not to pay rent?
Well, like Ben had mentioned, we've already filed. I think what I'm a little unclear of, and maybe Ben can answer, is the timing of this, in the sense that does the resident have to prove? See, right now we file, the constable shows up, the resident utters the word COVID, they get back in their vehicle and leave, and then the attorney has to file the motion to compel and get the judge to grant us the eviction. So I'm curious to know, and maybe Ben can answer, are they going to have to prove it during the motion to compel, or do they prove it under the initial eviction process?
Well, that's a great question. And I think up to now, as you kind of just eloquently stated, if a tenant were to utter the word COVID, or, hey, I have to be quarantined due to COVID, that was the primary focus up until now. And a lot of landlords have backed off based on that, because the initial executive order was a public health emergency. We didn't want to displace these tenants and have them go out and spread COVID-19. The new executive order is drafted a little bit differently, and after August 21st really focuses on the financial hardship of the tenant. And the tenant has to prove to the landlord they have a financial hardship, and they have to prove they're applying for rental assistance, and along with that, report the status of that. And so to both of your points, as well as Carrick's point, I think as we move forward, the tenant is really going to need to prove they have a financial hardship, and won't be able to just say, I have a quarantine issue, if they can't prove as well a financial hardship. And so as you pointed out, I think in the motion to compel stage, that's where a landlord can point out to the court that the tenant may not qualify under the new executive order. post August 21st because there's no true financial hardship, or because they've obtained rental assistance and should be paying rent, or perhaps also in the interest of justice, which is another carve out in the new executive order.
So Anthony, do you think on July 23rd that the tenant who has been getting the regular Arizona unemployment of $240 a week plus the federal additional compensation of $600 per week for a total of $840 a week, which is equivalent to $21 an hour, do you think on July 23rd that if you can prove that the tenant's been getting this unemployment and choosing not to pay their rent, they truly do not have a financial hardship, and that you could get the judge to allow an eviction to move forward?
Well, Ben might be able to answer that a little better than I can. I think so. You know, there's keep in mind, it's not just, so there's a special form that we have to do, a special 5-day that we're using. What it basically states is, although we're serving you a 5-day notice for non-payment, you have 30 days, at least on the government-backed buildings, to actually get caught up. So you're looking at 2 different styles of notices we're going to have to serve. So on the government, you know, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Section 8 subsidy programs or government-backed loans, we'll have to do a 5-day notice and allow them 30 days to actually pay. On the ones that don't have that kind of financing, don't have a voucher, yes, then we will do just a 5-day notice. And I don't think we're going to have a problem proving that, you know, that they're not COVID related unless they truly are. And I don't think it's, I think we're more concerned about the courts being backed up and overburdened. And I don't think that this is so new to the courts that I feel that there's going to be a lot of confusion at first, and it's going to delay the proceedings at least a week to 2 weeks out, is what I would anticipate. So I think it's more of an issue of delay for the court to sort it out than it's going to be us having to be able to prove it.
Okay. And I know I've had some landlords say that they haven't gone into a forbearance on their government-backed loan, and so this doesn't apply to them. But can you just clarify that the government loans, the Fannie, the Freddies, those loans, you're not allowed to evict someone whether or not you're doing a forbearance plan or not, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it's whether or not that it's, yeah. If you're doing, that was part of the president's 120-day stay. Again, it expires July 25th, so on the 26th is when that action can be done. But yeah, and most of my clients won't do the forbearance because it wasn't a real fair way of doing it. Basically, what they're allowing on the forbearance is 90 days for you to not make your payment, but you got to get it caught up within 12 months, and you can't be a penny behind on your default.
Right.
It's not a real great option for them, especially given the non-payment issues that they're fighting through.
Okay. Ben, any thoughts?
Yeah, so just a reminder to follow up on the recent dialogue. Neither executive order prevents a residential tenant from actually filing an eviction lawsuit. So even under the original executive order, a landlord could proceed with an eviction lawsuit. What the executive orders prohibit or delay is the enforcement of the writ of restitution, and that's where you call upon the constable and have them remove the tenant from the property. And so that's what is delayed. That's where the motion to compel comes into play. And so nothing even at this point or between July 23rd and August 21st on its face prevents a landlord from pursuing an eviction lawsuit. After August 21st, if a tenant still wants the protections of the executive order and wants to remain in the property until October 31st, or at least October 31st, that's where the tenant needs to prove the financial hardship as well as that they've applied for rental assistance.
And so if they are on unemployment and let's say only getting the $240 per week, that could very well be a financial hardship at just $1,000 a month. And so is that going to be sufficient, Anthony, do you think, to let them stay in the unit if they show they are on unemployment?
We are trying to work with residents. We understand the times, and we do what we can to work with the tenant to put them on a payment plan to get them caught up. $240 a week's a little, would be really tight for them to do that. But a lot of times they have other means and other ways of producing income. So it's definitely a case by case. We're hoping we can work out payment plans with most residents.
Okay. Any, what would be your word of wisdom for a landlord right now who, let's say, is self-managing their property, and what they should do with their tenants?
Word of wisdom. Well, I would basically say is these are troubled times. These are turbulent times, and try not to lose perspective of what they might be going through, whether COVID or not, and that we proceed with caution and with care, but also be very
respectful,
Yeah.
acknowledge the people that are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Some of the properties that I've managed, I've worked with my owners on programs to help the people behind the rent. Like we furnished them a list of resources for food and free internet and babysitting and residential assistance. And then also we've also put together programs to, you pay your rent early bird specials, we'll give you some discount or some reward for that. We've had one property that everyone that does pay the rent on time, we're just showing up and surprising them with free pizza, just to say, hey, thank you. We're in this together. Thank you for helping us do our job, and we're going to help whatever we can get you to stay in your home. So that's our job at the end of the day, I believe, is to help these people stay in their home and to get that landlord to get those mortgages paid.
Yeah.
Okay. And so overall, Anthony, are you at about 3% of your tenants, would you say, are behind in their rent at this point in time?
Across the entire portfolio, when we went from June into July, that number was 3%, and which we anticipated to be a bit higher. I know 3% kind of sounds low, but it's actually quite high in the current rental market we're in. But it wasn't as high as we anticipated. We honestly thought it was going to be a bit more. So yeah, and I think this has other effects as well. When you've got a situation, leasing on the flip side, let's talk about, if I can talk about that for a second. Leasing in this market right now has been just really, really good. So what's happening is demand is being inflated and kind of kept up high because you have residents sitting in apartments that are not paying, therefore they're not moving out. Therefore, occupancy has been really strong, causing leasing to fuel. It's going to be interesting when we see some of the residents being removed from the homes and the occupancy comes down, vacancy goes up, demand's probably going to go down. So we're really kind of interested to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, we've seen that across the country. There's a lot of metros that are having some rent deflation. I pulled our Phoenix inventory, and out of 295,000 apartments in the Phoenix area, when we compare rents from March to June, we're seeing 1% decline in overall rents that are being achieved. And it's interesting because most of the Class A apartments, we're looking at about a 3% decline right now. And then when we look at our Class C housing, we're up about 0.7% in rent. So I think certainly when we have an economic downturn from the past 10 years, we've noticed that people tend to shift down a notch in their housing. Someone that's in Class A will go to a Class B. Someone in a Class B will go to a Class C. Are you seeing people being a little more conservative in their choice of housing, or doubling up with one more roommate or something like that?
Yeah, well, we've seen that since the start of the boom almost, but more so now. Yeah, more so now. That seems to be quite common.
Yeah. And overall, I will say what you said about 3% of your tenants are behind in their rent. So certainly the media can blow things out of proportion and make it seem like the sky is falling. I will point out that nationally, we've taken a look at the numbers. The National Multi-Housing Council puts out a great statistic called the Rent Tracker on their website. You can check that out. And nationally, 96% of the tenants across the US paid their rents in June. And that was the same as it was a year before in June, pre-COVID, of course. And so overall, it's not much of a problem. There's just, a small percentage, that 3 to 4% that are the problem. But of course, I think what most of us are worried about is it's been good so far because we've had that extra $600 supplement to people that are on unemployment, but starting in August, that goes away. So Anthony and Bob, do you see this getting a little worse perhaps in August?
I don't think ours.
I don't think so. I don't in Phoenix. I don't think it's
Well,
going to get worse.
We have different perspectives.
Yeah.
Bob's very optimistic.
Yeah.
I think it's coming in September, October. I was actually, I want to say pleased. It's tough about to stay, and I definitely hope he has narrowed it enough to help the people who need it. With that said, before that stay was put back or extended, I was anticipating October to be a really bad month. It's going to take time for the courts to process everything. And so if the funding stops in August, you got to think, okay, they're going to ride that out for a little bit, and come September is when things are going to get a little bit difficult, and then that will probably spill into October. With the extension of the stay, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact because it has narrowed as far as helping, the people that shouldn't be riding this the way that they are going to finally have to, they're going to probably get evicted or whatnot. So
I agree with you. I think October is the one I would be looking at.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make any projections until after we get through August of that to see how this all plays out. I don't see a problem with August yet because there's still a little bit of money flowing. There's still some businesses open over here. But if things don't get better, it could get bad in October.
I'll tell you where my mindset goes, honestly, is the holiday season.
Yeah.
I know it seems really far off, but that's going to be a really big test. The holiday season in multifamily is already difficult. When you add this layer of burden on the population, it's gonna be even more difficult, I think. So I'm probably more concerned about November, December than anything else.
I would agree.
Speaking of holidays, Halloween, of course, is the day where the moratorium ends. So Ben, tell us, what do you see coming up here Halloween? Tricks or treats?
Okay.
Well, frankly, regarding the unemployment ended, I think we need to wait and see what happens here, because obviously Congress is contemplating another fiscal round of stimulus. And so, a big factor in any of this is what Congress does in the coming weeks. So I think we need to keep an eye out for that activity as well.
Absolutely. Anthony, Bob, any closing comments?
No, I mean, I just would say if you're having trouble with your asset, we specialize in this. I'd like to let you know that it doesn't cost anything to ask questions. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give out my office number, if that's okay, Garrett.
Yep, go ahead.
602-230-1510. I'm at extension 310. And you can email me as well, Anthony@avantgardrms.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might need to know from a management company standpoint.
Excellent.
Great.
I'd like to thank Ben. Ben, you don't know how important that the legal department serves for a property supervisor at this time. So we do the right thing for both sides, and make it a win-win. So appreciate you staying up to date, and helping us to do our job in the correct way. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you both.
Absolutely. And if any, property managers or landlords or tenants have any questions out there, we're happy to do a consultation to talk about their specific legal situation. We can be reached at 602-533-2840.
And I'm Carrick Sears with SVN Multifamily Advisors. I can be reached at 480-425-5529. Any closing comments, Ben?
No, I think that we summarized it fairly well, and I'm going to be looking out over the next couple of weeks to see what Congress does with new fiscal stimulus that's currently on the negotiation table.
Great. Well, thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Carrick.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.